All right. Ladies and gentlemen, can we please have a round of applause for Ritesh Agarwal from OYO and Jay Kotak from Kotak Mahindra Bank. Jay, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Ritesh, Jay, please have a seat. Guys, the topic for this session is the next gen on the next 10, right? And if we had to think of the next gen, you two would be the first to come to mind. And if we ask about the next 10 years, I think the first question on everybody's mind is AI. So banking and fintech, tourism, homestays, and all things hospitality. Ritesh, how is AI going to have an effect on both your respective industries in the next 10 years? Ritesh, I'd like to start with you.
Perfect. Thank you, Tanmay. I think first off, I must congratulate you on the fantastic promo you made for Shark Tank. I watched it recently. It's called Corporate Bidai.
Yeah.
When I watched it, I realized that truly I'm not cut out for the corporate life, because I looked at it and I was like, I can never be that person in that video. I'd rather be the person who he becomes into.
But you got married and had a child recently, so you're cut out for the bidai life at the very least.
Thank you, that's fair.
I must say that worked out.
That's fair. But it was the first, all our family members were quite bothered because they saw that the bride was not crying. But that's, I guess, the new world we live in. Jay also got married recently.
Yeah, congratulations both of you.
So truly nice.
AI pe aaya abhi?
AI pe aate hain. Look, I think fundamentally every business that you see around yourself is getting transformed by AI because of a couple of reasons. Now, so far, the artificial general AGI has not been achieved. But I believe that as soon as AGI does get achieved, this transformation will accelerate far quicker. And let me try and explain about our sector specifically. Hospitality, tourism, airlines, this is the segment where if you see call centers and customer service is one of the big part of expense. There are some companies which have built their business on the back of providing great support service during your reservation. I think all of those fundamentally will get transformed when AI can not just do chats, but can effectively have natural calls very much as if it's a human. Recently, I was reading on the internet that AI had a real original call with someone and ended up scamming someone too as an outcome. So I feel fundamentally this will translate multi-billion-dollar opportunity purely on customer service. And then it will, of course, transform everything from discovery, in-hotel experience, food, breakfast, the whole thing. So I believe that fundamentally AI is going to transform not just hospitality, but everything to do with consumer business. Klarna recently put out a story where 700 employees of theirs work is being done by one of their AI tools built as a wrapper around OpenAI. And I hope that the product that we are building would not replace people, but would effectively do the work of hundreds of people in times to come as well. What do you think, Jay?
Yeah. So for me, I think there are two very clear applications of AI in banking. First is credit underwriting. To grow India's economy at scale, we need to be able to provide credit to 1.5 billion people. And then when you go outside of maybe the top 10 or 15% of India, there is a very large data footprint that has just started being created by UPI and many other data sources. I think that using AI to integrate all of that data and produce better underwriting models can potentially be exciting. And the second one is, of course, service. You touched on it with Klarna. I think all of us have had some experience of average service with banks around the world, and something that all banks need to improve on. And AI allows for better controls, automation, and all of those other features that can be super, super useful.
No, I think, gentlemen, both of you to some degree must have already dabbled with, chatbots and having some sort of an AI agent interface with an end user. Can you tell us just some early learnings of, what are some things that can get better and what are some things that are immediately why didn't we do this earlier? Ritesh, I want to ask you first.
Yeah, I'll give you two contexts and then a recommendation to our listeners here today. I think what's done very well. So we receive a lot of our business from customers in Europe, US, and so on. In Europe, as you can imagine, every country has a different language. So we now serve, whether you're in Denmark, Netherlands, Belgium, Germany, Austria, France, all customers and homeowners from here in India through the chatbot we've created.
Got it.
Now the bot would automatically translate whatever the consumer is saying, translate it to English, make decisions based on its past experiences, and respond back in their own local language. And I've seen that it has been so good that probably in the last few months, the number of complaints we receive every month as the machine keeps getting better has now reached almost to nothing. So I think customer service, it's done very, very well. What can it do better? I think all of our consumer content, as you know, when people book hotels or holiday homes, they're basically renting a lot of pictures, reviews, ratings, and so on. I think if you look at anything beyond text, videos, images, etc., I believe that AI is still in its early journey. Now I know Mid-Journey and so on are tools that are being used by so many people, but I think the finesse can be disproportionately better. And I think the last is the gigs available are very little, right? Like everybody is searching for more GPUs to be able to make more compute to be able to make a difference. So I think more access to compute is the other thing that can change. Recommendation, I encourage everyone who has any form of business to please consider learning and using Copilot as much as you can. And because I believe that in the long term, everybody has mobile phones. The difference is not access to mobile phone, the difference is how well do you know how to use it. So in the same way, whether it is Copilot or ChatGPT or any of the tools that exist on usage of GPT-4, I think it's important that you learn more and more use cases rather than just have access to it. That's the only recommendation I have.
Jay, at 811, have you used some? What have you seen?
Yes, so for me actually, one of the things AI needs to do much better is give comfort on fraud and trust related issues. Banking is a trust-based business, and if we look at some of the videos created by Sora 2 weeks ago, and you kind of fast forward that even 12, 15, 18 months, the ability to get around KYC, the ability to reach out to customers for sensitive things like their money and financial products, someone needs to take ownership of the downsides of big fraud and trust issues that are going to come out of
Video
AI.
KYC is done for. The tech is here good enough that it can, the regular system
but
can be frauded.
You could build in your video KYC engine AI detection. So it's, with all fraud, it's attack and defense. So you could use AI to detect if there's AI in the video that you're seeing. So I think it's premature right now, and some of this, we need to build the right sets of guardrails and regulation around it without constraining it. But in banking and finance, I think there's a lot of good, but potentially a lot of concern as well.
Let's talk some more about the next 10 years in your respective sectors. Ritesh, backstage you were mentioning to me about some potential opportunities in religious tourism. We've seen what opportunities have already presented themselves at Mecca, Jerusalem, and now with Ayodhya and the mandir that's been built. What are some interesting trends, some data that you've seen and opportunities that in the world of hospitality, what are you seeing?
Yeah, look, first off, I think India is in this unique place where if you see any financial publication, people talk about India being the next bright spot, right, for all kinds of businesses. I think specifically in our tourism industry in itself is at a transformative impact because of two reasons. One, when people earn more, experiences is what they search for anyway. And you combine that with the new millennial today who like to spend more on experiences than products. So due to which I believe that tourism in itself has a great future in India, regardless of what you're doing in it. Specifically, what we're seeing in the religious tourism opportunity is that if you mentioned about what's happening at Mecca, Jerusalem, Vatican, they've all translated to multi-billion-dollar economies in one town. If you think of it that way, I think Ayodhya alone, of course, is a bigger opportunity if you combine Tirupati, Banaras, Rameshwaram, lots of other places. But if you see just Ayodhya, I think the amount of tourism that I anticipate is probably going to be multifold of that of any of these centers because of a couple of reasons. One, it is domestic, which means a lot of followers and Hindus are in the country, so they can much more easily with lower cost travel to the destination. And second, at the same time, the infrastructure that can be created can be disproportionate. So we opened around the Pran Pratishtha 65 properties in Ayodhya, and we are all sold out across. It's hard to find any of those places, and we're trying to add as many more as we can. So I believe that the entire tourism industry built around just spiritual tourism will be probably bigger than some of the larger European countries in the next 10 years, because we're talking about 10 years. And it's visible in stock prices, right? We are a private company, but if you look at the stock prices of IHCL, which is effectively Tata Hotels or Taj Hotels, or if you see EIH, any of the hotel chains, they're all sort of building in substantial earning benefit because of spiritual tourism coming up in the future.
Jay, in fintech, what are some trends that you're seeing play out in the next 10 years?
I think about growth for us at a sectoral level as kind of a step-by-step platform bolt on to existing platforms that create exponential impact. And I'll give you kind of an example of what I mean by that in the context of fintech. First, telecom for all, 4G services for all. Second, cheap, accessible smartphone devices for all. Third, identity for all in the form of Aadhaar. Fourth, democratized payments where any aspiring entrepreneur can plug into the UPI network and offer payments to all Indians, to any merchant at fractional cost. And lastly, mindset shift from COVID and demonetization that changed the average Indian's perception on what fintech and digital payments and digital finance means. Any of these one things would be remarkable in its own right. Aadhaar, payments, smartphones, data, mindset. But when you layer them all on each other, that can be special. Jeff Bezos in a recent podcast said, Amazon may be the output, but the input was the decades of work created to do logistics by FedEx, to the internet creation by various stakeholders, MasterCard, Visa, and the credit card ecosystem. I think India is taking the first step, or it is the first mover in this new age of digital platforms, and I don't think there's any country in the world that has each of these layered on each other, and that is exciting.
But Jay, if when efficiency in payments and efficiency in the finance world, such a degree of efficiency is created, for entrepreneurs who are thinking of building in fintech, where are the opportunities? So for example, if you don't have to pay to make a single payment, is lending it? Are we talking about if you win distribution, you win lending, and that's how you build your business?
I don't think there is a shortage of ethical profit pools in financial services. Lending is one of them. Lending is not the only one. You look at mutual funds, you look at deposits, you look at the entire financial sector. If you do right to your customer and the customer is engaged with you, I think there's enough there, and I don't think you need to. I feel that the international model of charging 1.5% on credit card fees by large international companies, that doesn't need to be the way, and India has found a remarkable solution out of that.
Interesting. We just have 90 seconds left, gentlemen. Vision for India for the next 10 years. Ritesh, what are you seeing the country transform into, and what vision do you have for us?
Look, I believe that India is truly in a unique inflection point today. If you see US, for instance, it was civil wars driven. Many people don't know that, or don't even imagine that US once was a very tough economy and Europe used to be the leader of the world. But there were entrepreneurs such as Vanderbilt, Andrew Carnegie, JP Morgan, who basically created that country to what it has become. So I believe entrepreneurs play a big role in making their countries into world leaders. And I believe in next 10, 15 years, India would be a world leader. And I think there will be a lot of entrepreneurs who are probably here in this room and around in small towns in India who are not aspiring to build great enterprises, for India or for the city, but for the world. Already you can see it in new age companies, right? New age companies 2 years back used to get a lot of backlash for them not being profitable. Today, if you see probably the last quarter, I was reading that the profit growth of even the top 100 NSE companies was driven for the first time by consumer tech companies. So I think this is the starting point of a 10-year long opportunity where there will be new age companies who are being started by first generation entrepreneurs with just a dream in their eyes, starting from small towns, but getting benefited by what Jay just mentioned about these 4 layers that our country has created and creating multi-decadal value creation for our country, making India hopefully a developed nation.
Cut more checks on Shark Tank is
I'm trying. This actually, I'm probably the second, if not the most. I'm probably the most frequent and the second highest person writing checks. But Jay, what do you think?
I'm a student of history. I think in long cycles, and I look over the past 200 or 300 years, and there are maybe 3 or 4 countries, Great Britain, the US, Germany, that have had these kind of moments where everything came together at once and produced 1 or 2 generations of transformative and exceptional growth. I think for a variety of reasons, which everybody knows, India is in that moment right now. And if I look at the next 20 or 25 years, this is our cocktail of perfect kind of underlying. It's ours to lose.
excellent. That bodes well for everybody here, not just on the stage, but everybody else in the room. See you guys at the next edition of the IGF, which will hopefully keep continuing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks, guys.